Hello and welcome to another Pauper video. I'm Callie Kais and today we're going to be discussing the Trophy Tuesdays. So that is, what are all the trophies that have happened on Magic Online during the online leagues, and what does that metagame look like? If you're interested in checking out more about the challenge metagame and challenge recap, definitely take a look at the Casting Commons podcast and YouTube page. They have all the information about that. If you want to check out sideboard guides for the decks that I like to play, make sure to check out my Patreon, which is patreon.com/CallieKais. And then check out Pondering Pauper, which is my own podcast. And make sure to like and subscribe on this video if you want to make sure that you get extra notifications and stuff for when videos like this come up. And then before we get into this, let's remember that this video is sponsored by Card Market. Cardmarket.com is the largest online seller of Magic the Gathering cards in Europe, so check them out to build a battle box and get all these sweet decks. So what is going on in the Magic Online leagues? Well, the talk of the town has been all that glitters. Glitters has been basically what has been defining the format since it was released, as well as just the artifact lands. But another card that's been really pushing has been Thraben Inspector or Novice Inspector, now that we have 8 Inspectors, and that has caused a couple of swings. So lately, Boros Synth has been the new deck that's taking up the metagame. So here in the last week, we had 14 Boros Synth pilots trophy with 10% of the total 5-0s. And then Glitter's Affinity is 7.8% of the total 5-0s. So that means that somewhere between 7 and 18% of the decks are decks that are playing a bunch of Thraben Inspectors. And then also many of the Boros Synth decks are playing all the glitters as well. But what we're seeing is that the Boros Synth decks are a little bit better at using their removal spells to stop the glitters decks. So I think that's why Jeskai and glitters, or blue-white glitters, has really taken a dive lately. Mono red is staying strong at 8.5% with 12 trophies, and then we have Isoterror just behind it. Other control strategies of Jeskai Ephemerate and Bulgari Gardens are quite strong still, and we have a lot of Fey pilots, familiars, and then it definitely trails off from there. So let's go ahead and get into day one. Day one had not too many trophies, with only 10 total. But on day one, we had 2 Isoterror. One was kind of, they were a little bit spicy. Then we have 1 Glitter's Affinity, 1 Jeskai Ephemerate, 1 Fey, 1 Fams, 1 Cogate, 1 Dredge, 1 Mono Black Control, and 1 Flickertron. So the Jeskai Affinity that we see here is just splitting the Thraben Inspectors. So 2 Novice, 2 Thraben with 4 Frogmites still. They won't get off the Frogmite, I guess. But they have Galvanic Blast as a way to push damage, and then they're also playing Metallic Rebuke and Of One Mind and Thoughtcast, so you can see that they made some concessions in the mana base, as well as the artifacts, in order to fit all these colors. It's kind of wild. I tried playing this kind of deck, and I got completely destroyed, just not having enough lands. The next thing to highlight is Ephemeratron, or Flickertron, as we like to say. This is a deck that is a control strategy, focusing on using the Tron lands, which is Tower, Power Plant, and Mine from the Urza's stuff. And this specific list is using Expedition Map and Energy Refractor. So they're using Expedition Map to get their lands, and Energy Refractor for colors. And the spicy card here that people don't know that much about is Runaway Boulder. It says when it enters the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to target creature and opponent controls. And it has cycling for 2. But the important thing here is that it has flash. The Runaway Boulder can flash in, or you can teachings for it, which is why they can play just a 1-of, and they can also flicker it with the Ghostly Flicker. So you have, once that's online, you have basically infinite 6 damage removal spells. So the next cool list, this is Mono Black Control, I'm calling it, by Selkas, and it's basically the same deck as the Green-Black Gardens. It's playing Colony Garden as that token creator so that you can use the Deadly Dispute and Fanatical Offering, but no Avenging Hunter. Instead, playing 2 Ill-Gotten Inheritance as a way to slowly drain out the opponent. It is a long, grindy game, but that is definitely a way to do it. Then the other one I wanted to point out was this blue-red by USP Dudes. So it's not playing Teachings, but they are playing Devious Cover-Up as a way to recycle their deck. And I thought that was an interesting addition to the blue-red Terror deck. So on day 2, we had no crazy standouts again, but 2 ofs for Boros Synth, Mono Red, Is It Terror, Glitter's Affinity, Black White Blade, and Walls, with 1 ofs for Gardens, White Weenie, Cawgate, Turbo Emblem, so like your Turbo Initiative type deck, Elves, a Poison Storm by me, Turbo Fog, and a Dimir Control. So let's check out this Turbo Emblem. This actually placed top 8 in a challenge, I think last week or the week before, which is wild, but they're basically just using Namesticker Goblin to turbo out the Avenging Hunter or Goliath Paladin or Crimson Fleet Commodore, where Trailblazer's Torch is not a very good one to turbo out, but it can be done as well. So they have 8 ways to get emblems, with 12 of them being the initiative. And then Kick in the Door is a way to continue to push the initiative. This deck is extremely weak to burn with the Go Wide strategy from that deck, but it looks like they're playing Cast into the Fire and Weather the Storm and Breath Weapon to try to get through them. I just don't know how you would sideboard, but this is a deck that I'm interested in potentially playing for another video. And then here we have the Poison Storm list that I trophied with in a previous video, which you can check out on my channel. The major change here being going from 20 lands to 18 with 4 Lorien revealed for additional ways to get colored sources. Did not run into any glitters in that league. On the 26th, we had Blue-White Familiars at 3 trophies. 2 for Is It Terror, Blue X Fae, Orzhov Blade, and even the Goblin combo deck, with 1 for Mono Red Glitters, Blue-White Glitters, or I'll just call it Glitters Affinity from now on, 1 Jeskai Femme, Rakdos Madness Burn, Dredge, another Poison Storm, and a Mardu Metalcraft. So here we see one of the white-black decks, just your classic Tithing Blade, Black-White Blade type deck. They're playing Troll of Khazad-dûm, which is cool. And so they can get their Sunlit March, and I think they're playing Snuff Outs? No Snuff Outs. Interesting. But they do have Disfigure, and then... So they're not doing anything with the Troll other than just getting a land, maybe at some point. Oh, there's the Witch's Cottage. So they control for Witch's Cottage to get the Troll back, which can be a neat way to get value. Goblin combo deck. Looking pretty clean at this point. I don't see anything crazy. No more demand answers, it seems. Still on Mesmeric Fiend. This Mardu Synthesizer is a Cleansing Wildfire based list. They're using Cleansing Wildfire to get mana advantage, and then they just have 4 Hawk, 4 Skyfisher, so no Thraben Inspectors whatsoever. But they do have 4 of Tithing Blade and a bunch of removal spells. They only have 4 Galvanic and no Lightning Bolts whatsoever. That's sort of a surprise to see. We have a Familiars list. So Parallax actually trophied twice with Familiars, and it looks like this was a test list trying to figure things out. But you can see they're on 4 Modern Age 2 Deep Analysis as like the draw engine of the deck. They also have 2 Seagate Oracles, 2 Murmuring Mystic, 3 Arcanemancer, trimming on Godpharaoh's Faithful. And they're playing Preordain, Counterspell, Destroy Evil, really all over the place. It's sort of hard to parse. And then look at the sideboard. 3 of Hydroblast, 2 of Nature's Chant, 2 Exclude, and then the rest are 1-ofs with just all over the place, like trying to figure out what to do, I guess. Then the next one has still the same number of 1-ofs, kind of changing things around, but trimming on a Murmuring Mystic and a Modern Age for a couple of other things, with an Angel Song in the main, which has been something that this player has liked a lot, which is prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn with cycling for 2. So you can ephemerate your Arcanemancer to keep getting back your Fog, or you can just cycle it if it's dead. So that's something that I guess is pretty good. But they're also playing Bajuka Bog in the main deck, and no Lorien revealed whatsoever. We have another white-black deck, basically the same thing, so not too spicy. On the next day, we had a huge day for Mono Red with 5 trophies, and then the rest are all 2s and then 1s. So 2 of for Boros Synth, Is It Terror, Glitter Affinity, Jeskai Ephemerate, Blue X Fae, Cawgate, Mono Blue Fae, And then one ofs for Gardens, Blue-White Familiars, White Weenie, Rakdos Madness Burn, Gruul Ponza, oof, Ogles, and Black Burn. So I think this might have been... So there was a Teamer Ponza, so I've registered this under Gruul Ponza on my sheet, but it was Teamer. And we saw both of the Fairies pilots were Dimir this time. And our Mono Black Burn was playing a fancy card with Basilica Screecher, which has Extort. So it says whenever you cast a spell, you can pay white or black. And if you do, each opponent loses a life and you gain that much life. So that's another way to get extra value out of the cards that you're playing using this Extort creature. Kind of sweet. On the 28th, we had a huge day for Golgari Gardens with 5 trophies. 3 ofs for Boros Synth, Glitter's Affinity, Jeskai Ephemerate. 2 ofs, Mono Blue Terror. And then singletons for Mono Red, Is a Terror, White Weenie, Cogate, Rakdos Madness Burn again. Mardu Metalcraft, this was a Gates this time, I believe. So Mardu Synthesizer. A Gruul Ponza for realsies, and a Cycle Storm. So this Mardu Synthesizer is a Gates-based synthesizer list, which is using Basilisk Gate to pump all their cheapo creatures and slam in for damage, while still having the Tithing Blade value engine and the other value engine of Synthesizer or Lembus to continue to draw through your deck. This deck is pretty sweet. This Cycle Storm is one of the older type of lists where they're not playing any of the artifact lands. Instead, they're playing Ash Barrens with Island and Swamp, and they're using Repository Scob, so it's sort of an older version of the deck. One cool thing is Vision Charm here in the sideboard. It says target artifact phases out, which you can phase out a relic on your go turn, or put the top 4 cards of your target player's library in their graveyard, so it's like mill 4, or all lands of one type or basic lands of your choice until end of turn. You can actually use Vision Charm as sort of a Silence or a Giga Drowse versus an opponent who is all one color. You can do that versus something like Mono Red, turn all their mountains into plains, and then they can't interact with you. Go to second main phase or do that on the upkeep. On the 29th, we had huge day for Boros Synth with 5 trophies. 2 for, actually a double trophy for another player playing the Naya Turbo Initiative. Then 1 ofs for Mono Red, Jeskai Ephemerate, Golgari Gardens, Blue X Fae, White Weenie, Orzhov Blade, Walls, Madness, Mono Blue Terror, Elves, Grixis Control, which is cool to see, and a Boros Bully. So this first list is interesting. It's basically White Weenie. They're playing a Boros Garrison to get extra value out of their lands, and they are playing Ephemerates to ephemerate their Sacred Cat, Thraben Inspector, maybe even the Core Skyfisher or Fiend's Informant or Spirited Companion or Palace Sentinels and Eagles of the North. So they have a lot of like ETB value stuff. They can get some value out of Ephemerate, and it's kind of neat. I also really like this Greatsword of Tyr specifically. It's a cool card. It says whenever a equipped creature attacks, put a counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature defending player controls. Also have a Singleton Lotus Petal here, which is funky. And Core Halberd giving a creature +1/+1 in Vigilance. So they're pretty all in on the equipments. Kind of neat. We have a Boros Synthesizer with All That Glitters. So this kind of shows the All That Glitters version of Boros Synth. It's essentially the same deck, but instead of playing a bunch of Gingerbrutes, and here they're playing 2, they are playing a bunch of Wedding Invitations to do a sort of a Gingerbrute impression. And here we have a Boros Synth, but this is really a Boros Bushwhacker / Glitters deck. Sort of a mashup. Oliver was able to get a trophy here. And it's, he said you can either like go all in on the Kuldotha Bushwhacker plan, or you can go tall with the All That Glitters, giving you multiple plans, which helps to fight and change your angle based on what the opponent's doing. Then here's the deck that was playing, that managed to double trophy. It looks to be the same version as the other deck. No changes whatsoever. Wild. And then we have an Is It Fairies by Tart. Tart managed to trophy 2 times this week, and they are really enjoying playing Is It Fairies. I know that's their diehard Is It Fairies player. So here they're playing 5 ninjas, splitting it to 2 Mirror Circuit Hacker and 3 Ninja the Deep Hours, and only 1 Monarch card. I think later on in the week they went up to 6 ninjas. So on the last day of the week, very flat across the board. We did have 3 blue-white familiars trophies. 2 ofs all here, kind of crazy, with Boros Synth, Mono Red, Is It Terror, Glitter Affinity, Jeskai Ephemerate, Gardens, the Blue X Fae. So here another Fae by Tart. And the 1-ofs were White Weenie, Walls, Golgari Dredge, Els, Grixis Control again, and Bogles. So you can see here that the creature package has gotten a lot leaner and more specific from Tart, with 4/4, 4/4, and then a 2-of here. And then still playing this Snap that he enjoys. 3 Lightning Bolt, 4 Scred. Looks pretty streamlined. Grixis Control. One of the cards that they've been using in Grixis Control is not in this list, but it's a kind of new edict that can say, okay, sacrifice the largest creature you have, and that's been good against glitters, I believe. And then this familiars list specifically is a trophy, and they are using the list directly from the Pauper Get-In winner. So you can tell because they're on the 2 Impulse, 2 Merchant Scroll. And what Pietro said was that the Merchant Scroll allows them to have just so many things to tutor for that they feel like they have a lot of agency, as well as that they can do a lot of fancy things. Like we talked about how he was playing an Aether Toe specifically for a Guardian of the Guild Pact, and was able to use Aether Toe against them to win a couple of games after merchant scrolling for it. Kind of sweet. We have a Bogles. That's a pretty standard Bogles. Let's see. All right, that's all the spice. So we can go ahead and review the sheet here, but overall the meta is looking quite flat, which is great. Nothing super huge standout. We're seeing a lot of Boros Synth, which means that even though we're getting slammed by Synthesizer, it's more of a mid-range version of it and a little bit easier to force through, where they're not protected by counterspells and stuff. It's possible we'll see Boros Synth move into the counterspell suite, but I kind of doubt it. Then we have Mono Red as the second highest deck. But it's nice to see a more mid-range-y deck be the top deck of the format. I definitely like that. Is It Terror coming down. Glitter Affinity still up there. And then some control decks. And falls off with a lot of different things having success. So it's great to see. If you have any questions for me, or you want more details about the decks or what I've been doing to get this set up, let me know. Hopefully you enjoyed. There was a lot to cover. And we'll see you in the next video.